Hey, how you doing, guys? Every time you get me, every time. Good evening. Welcome to another riveting edition of The Ghost and the Goat. I am paranormal investigator Buddy Thayer. Welcome you to join me by the hand and welcome to walk into a very paranormal field. Some night we do ghosts, other nights people try and convince me there's a Bigfoot. Oh my God, something paranormal about this beer. Other nights we have UFO and alien people on. Tonight is just one of those nights. Now, usually I'll kick off the show with a little sports. Tell you what's been going on in the sporting world. About my my poor Red Sox. I was at a Little League game this evening for Conrad Hearn, the next All-Star coming out of the Red Sox, probably the next like 15 or so years. Watch your radar for this kid. He's playing right field for the Smithfield Little League team. Me and Mom went and checked it out. Great game. Kind of struck out one, and he walked in, ended up scoring a run, stealing every base along the way. Kid's fast. He's like 5'8", and he's 10 years old. It's wonderful. Yeah, we went check out that game. It's like 2 miles from the house. Driving home. Yeah, my car ran out of gas. So I'm a little bit late this evening. So I'm not going to go full on into sports. I was going to cover the draft a little bit. My Dolphins got a god. We got a defensive tackle. We picked up a quarterback in the 7th round, maybe. Jeff was really happy about the Patriots and what they picked up this week and how they are going to destroy my Dolphins. Dude, you can't. You just drafted a kid that's just out of college. You can't make any assumptions. In baseball, the Red Sox are up right now 7-2 against the Toronto Blue Jays. Just happened there. My screen kind of went sharp. Okay. And I don't mean to be running that. And I'll run this one instead. The Celtics right now are playing the Game 5 of the Eastern Conference playoffs, and they're tied 8-8 with the Orlando Magic. I'm hoping that they'll take the Magic straight out of Orlando, but I don't know. Orlando, they played it tight. They didn't let it go above 10 points. Hoping to see the Lakers get knocked out of the playoffs tonight. Hoping for a lot of good things. Above all, I'm hoping for my teams in Boston to win. And yeah, that's where I'm at. So tonight's show, flipping that switch, going right to the paranormal right away. Tonight's guest, he's been on before in a different capacity. He's been on as the curator and the president of probably the greatest museum of all time. Located, I'm writing right down here at the bottom, the Varnum Memorial Armory Museum, www.varnum. Check it out. I've shown you their website the last few weeks. We're doing a little fundraiser for the museum later on next month. But Patrick's coming back to join us this week to not talk about the Varnum Armory or the possible spiritual connections that might be there. Oh, that's always a fun story. Yet on the other hand, Patrick does something else. Oh, that's also under that paranormal umbrella. He is the chair of the outreach. I don't know. He's a chair member of the American Institute for Aeronautics and I'm probably astronomical. I'm probably screwing it up. I'm just going to bring Patrick on. Welcome back to the show, Patrick Donovan. Hey, Pat, how you doing, dude?
Hey, buddy. I'm good, thanks. I appreciate the shout out for the museum.
Oh, really appreciate that. Every time I get the chance to, Patrick. Every time.
You're one of our best cheerleaders, so I appreciate that.
I've said it before. I say it all the time. There's always something new that's old to be seen at the Varnum Armory. There's always additions. It's not just some old dusty collection. It's incredible. It's an incredible treasure, and it's the conservation work that you guys do over there is like second to none. And like I tell everybody, it's a volunteer effort. It's unbelievable, and it needs to be mentioned as much as possible. So I try to do that as much as we can. But you're joining us tonight for a different reason. You're coming on because not always do you experience ghosts, but you might also experience things from above. Can you tell us a little bit about this organization where I totally butchered the name of and how you became a part of it?
Yeah, no problem. So I have, obviously, as you know, I have a very rich volunteer life. Mm-hmm. My normal day job is I have a career at Schneider Electric. which
What do you
is
do?
I'm in research and strategy. So I do technology analysis of data center power and cooling technologies. Data centers is a massive business right now because of AI, artificial intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
And so that takes up most of my time. But my wife and I do not have kids. We just have our one little dog. And that gives me the bandwidth to do fun things like the museum. And I have a lot of interests, but since I've been a little kid, I've always had a fascination with paranormal stuff.
Oh, Cody and Satori, look at you guys.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome to the show.
And UFOs in particular. I had an older brother who was into it. I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you're old enough to remember the television show called In Search Of.
Oh, yeah, with Leonard Nimoy.
Nimoy.
Oh, my God, yeah. When I was sick home from school, I used to watch, like, the marathons. I think it was on the History Channel or, like, the Learning Channel. They played all day. I love stuff like that. Yeah.
So that show, Unsolved Mysteries, I don't know. I've always been attracted to that stuff. And the other thing that got me interested in the topic, excuse me, is my grandfather was a World War II pilot. And he didn't get to Europe until late in the war, but he flew a DC-10, and he basically pulled gliders for paratroopers. And I had the utmost respect for my grandfather. He was not the kind of person that bragged or, exaggerated about things. He was a very humble person. And he told me one time that he was flying a mission somewhere in France. It was a moonlit night, partly cloudy, and they were flying over a lake, and the moonlight was like illuminating the lake below, he said. And he saw right on the surface of the water a metallic looking disc just sitting there still above the water. And he's, in his mind, this is 1944. The term UFO didn't even exist at that time. Flying saucers didn't exist at that time. And he said he was looking at it, and he said all of a sudden it just in an instant shot straight up, went right by his plane, shot above him, punched a hole in the cloud, and completely vanished.
Wow.
And of course, that behavior is against all laws of, aeronautics. And he assumed at first that it was German technology of some sort.
Right.
And, I was just a little kid at the time. He's long since passed away. And I wish I could talk to him today and ask him, better questions. But
for sure, yeah.
That always hit home with me. But anyway, I've kind of had an on and off again interest in the topic. And then, for a long time, I didn't really think about it. I was an X-Files fan. And, but after that show, I kind of forgot about it. And it was in 2017, late that year, an article in the New York Times came out, basically yielding light on this secret government program to study UFOs. And the program was called ATIP, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. And, here's the New York Times, normally a publication that would never touch this topic, except maybe in a tongue-in-cheek kind of joking way. But holy cow, our government is studying UFOs. If there's nothing to UFOs, why would the government be spending money studying this?
Right.
So that kind of got me back into the topic, and that story kind of opened the floodgate. So once that story hit the ground, I think it became more acceptable to talk about it. And more witnesses started to come forward in the government. Pilots, commercial, military pilots started to come forward with some very compelling stories. And those stories have always existed, but the floodgates really opened, I think, at that time.
Right.
And I'm taking a long time to get around to your question.
No. Go ahead. Dude, I like a nice long story, Patrick.
So one of the very first, he's not technically a whistleblower, but one of the first active duty military pilots that came forward to tell their story of encountering UAP was a Lieutenant Ryan Graves. He was a Navy pilot. He flew FA-18. He was in a unit called the Red Rippers. They operated off the coast of Virginia, the Carolinas. They operated in this space called Whiskey 72. And he basically came forward and said that literally every single day, every time they go out to fly, they're encountering these mysterious objects
Wow.
that they just could not account for.
It's that common.
Yeah, that common. They had a near miss at one point, and they were reporting this to their superiors, and they weren't really getting any attention. Nothing. There was no follow-up being done.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't have unknown objects in our sensitive airspaces just flying around willy-nilly.
Right.
That's a huge security risk. It's a safety risk. And so he really took that to heart, and he became kind of a spokesperson for other pilots. He ended up forming a group called the Americans for Safe Aerospace. They're a nonprofit. They represent pilots, thousands of pilots who have experienced UAP or UFOs in their airspace.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, he worked with an organization. He presented, I should say, at an organization called the American Institute for Aeronautics and Astronautics, or AIAA for short. It's AIAA.org. Now, this is a very prestigious organization. It's existed for decades. It's an industry trade organization for the aerospace industry specifically.
Mm-hmm.
It's composed of over 30,000 members, mostly aerospace engineers, people, commercial people that work for the aerospace industry, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, NASA. So you've got, everybody from like startups all the way through to these big companies and government organizations that run this. And the whole purpose of this technical society is to support the aerospace industry, to help professional development, to be a forum for thought leadership on all these different aerospace topics. Anyway, Ryan presented to this organization, and long story short, the AIAA ended up forming a committee specifically to address UAP, unidentified anomalous phenomena, or better known as UFOs. And basically to exist as an organization to help destigmatize the topic in the scientific and academia, to encourage the scientific study of UFOs. And I had been following Ryan and other people related to that story on X, Twitter at the time. And he announced that he was putting together this organization. Are there any willing volunteers out there to help? And I think I might have been the first person to see the post, and I responded right away. And I had to go through an interview process, obviously. So I do not have any aerospace engineering background. I'm not in that industry, but I have certain skill sets that they found useful: project management skill sets, marketing, PR. So our team is broken into 3 committees. We have a hardware factors committee. So this is our science team. These are aerospace engineers. They're people who are specialists with sensors, data science, machine learning, machine vision, aerospace professors. So we have people from NASA, aerospace engineering schools, are really a great group of people that are in the defense industry.
So this is like a collective of like defense and science type people that are saying that they're doing this to study UAPs. So UAPs or UFOs are legitimately a thing.
Yes, and it's not just us saying that; it's the government has said this. So I should back up and first say that everything I'm saying tonight is my own personal. I'm not representing the AIAA tonight or our UAP committee. These are my personal thoughts. But so it's not just us and our committee that's saying this, or other people have been witnesses. So the government, again, has a committee an organization within the Defense Department to study UAP. They are required by law now to issue reports to Congress. So every year there's the National Defense Authorization Act that basically is the legislation that funds the Department of Defense. Massive piece of legislation. Yeah. And starting in 2023, all the way up through the present year, UAP is now included in this legislation. So the legislation puts certain requirements on the Department of Defense to study, to collect data, to respond to reports, to investigate military reports of UAP. And in these reports, there is a very small percentage. They get hundreds and hundreds of reports from military personnel every year.
Yeah.
And there's a small percentage of those reports that represent unknown technologies, extreme capabilities that cannot be explained.
Mm-hmm.
That's not to say that, there may be if more data were to come forward, they might be able to resolve those cases to mundane causes. But there is a small percentage that are very, very mysterious, exhibiting, characteristics like instant acceleration, the ability to make right-angle turns in the air, no visible signs of propulsion, or no flight control surfaces.
Right.
One of the most, according to the government's UFO office, the most commonly recorded UAP are silver spheres. These are metallic spheres that are in the 3-meter diameter size range.
Oh, wow.
And they've
been
not
very big.
No, not very big. No. These are just steel balls. How do these things stay up in the air, right? How do they stay? The interesting thing is they've been, recorded being in a fixed location in the sky. So you can imagine being in hurricane force winds and somehow having the energy to just remain in one spot.
Wow.
The amount of energy that required to do that is incredible. And to be able to do that for long periods of time. But they've been seen to go from stationary to Mach 2. Again, no visible
no acceleration, just like 0 to Mach 2.
No exhaust. Yeah, these things just take off. It's really,
and they fly into the water too. That's another commonality of a lot of these, right?
They're called transmedium. There's been a couple of videos that show apparent transmedium capabilities.
You believe these are different species, different?
So from the perspective of the AIAA, we do not make any conjecture about the origin or what this is. We focus instead on detecting, characterization, evaluation of UAP. So UAP just means that it's unknown. It's an object there. We don't know what it is.
Could be anything. You're not saying it's ET, but it could be
right.
ET.
Correct.
But it could be the kid up the street.
It could be China. It could be Russia. Me personally, on a personal level, I do believe that we are dealing with non-human intelligence. I think some of these reports are that.
People talk about the grays, and then they talk about the little green ones, and
so there's a lot of interesting cases where people have these close encounters where they actually witness or interact with some sort of being or intelligence. There's the whole, abduction, which is fascinating to read about. It's amazing the number of people that have had these types of experiences.
For sure.
And being interested in this topic and, working with this group, I've been exposed to people that have, are former abductees, and very interesting. I don't know what to make of it ultimately. It's a topic in our group, of course, we don't deal with. That's not our focus area, but as a private person, I'm very interested. I mean, I've met and known people that have had that abduction experience.
Right. It's you get that couple from northern New Hampshire. When I used to visit my in-laws when they used to live up up there past Man of the Mountain. We used to drive down by Clocks, and it's like that little convenience store, and that whole story is painted, muraled on this, and it's kind of fascinating story because after the abduction, the husband was like tormented by PTSD and trauma and memories. He ended up taking his own life, and the wife was inspired by her experience and went back to school and got her degree, and she was a clinical therapist for people who had the similar experiences. Which I find absolutely incredible. That one, there was that many experiences for people to need a therapist for, and two, that both of them would go in like complete 180-degree differences. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of. But it seemed you look at I was like Googling maps of like UFO activity or UAP activity. It seems like it's the northern New England area is hot. The West Coast is hot. The Virginia, Carolina area is kind of hot, but then there's like blotches where there's nothing. What are your thoughts on that? Why do they seem to focus around?
And interestingly, the DoD, when they put out the report, they actually show their sighting report. They show it geographically, and so but it's hard to know what that data really represents. Are you seeing the data that you see because that's where you happen to be looking? Is it because that's where our military bases are located?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because that's where there's more population?
Mm-hmm.
In a city, you may not look up in the sky. In a city at night where you have a lot of lights, you may not be looking up in the sky as much as you would maybe in the countryside. It's hard to figure out what that data really means.
Yeah.
There was a paper that was published, a scientific paper, that tried to make the case that there is a greater presence of UAP located at nuclear sites.
Yeah, right.
Nuclear assets, nuclear power reactors, nuclear missile silos, that sort of thing. And there's some pretty good, at least anecdotal evidence that that's the case.
For sure. I mean, like, you look in history and there's there's paintings from like the 14, 15, 1600s, and there's like a hint, like there's like I think it's like the Blessed Mother or something, and in the sky there's like this disc.
Yeah.
It's like, is that a UFO? It's not the sun. You see the sun. It's not the sun. It comes up in other paintings. It comes up in other like areas throughout history. But it seemed to like really explode with the 20th century, more so with the age of nuclear technology. Is this like, are they attracted to this, do you think, or are they guardians? Are they like trying to keep us safe, keep an eye on us? What are your thoughts, Patrick?
There's a lot of theories about that. There's a sense that one of the theories is that these things are not from a distant planet. They're not. The distances are just too great for that to be practical in any sense. And that they've always been here. They're somehow, this is the whole idea of it, and what people refer to as interdimensional.
Yeah.
Physicists have a hard time with that language. That language does not really make sense to them.
Right.
But this idea that they're here, but somehow we can't see them or experience them, and they're in some other realm, but nearby.
Yeah.
And that maybe when we reached a nuclear development stage, there's concern that we're going to destroy the planet, upset the environment in some negative way that would impact them, and that makes them more wary of us or more interested in paying attention to what we're doing. It's a lot of people kind of have that view of it, and it makes sense to me.
Okay. What are your thoughts about say like ancient peoples building temples, all pointing to different stars, or like Egyptians and Aztecs living on different areas of the planet and still having the same like structured? Do you think that any relation there, or do you think that's just people drawing straws?
I don't know. I've never dug much into the ancient astronaut theory stuff. There's a lot there to make people feel that there's something going on there. What I like to, when I look back at the ancient cases of UAP, to me, it's a reason to. So a lot of rational thinking people will say, people see a UFO, a UAP, it's acting bizarrely in the sky, or it looks weird. The assumption is, the easy explanation is it's secret tech.
Right.
It's our adversaries,
China.
But the problem with that whole theory is that what people see today is exactly what people were seeing 100 years ago or hundreds of years ago. One of my favorite people to read and listen to, she's done a lot of podcasts. She's a religious studies professor. She's the chair of her department at University of North Carolina. Her name is Dr. Diana Pasulka. She's published a couple of books on the topic. American Cosmic is the first book that she came out with. I highly recommend that book. It's absolutely fascinating. But she came to the topic as a religious studies person. she actually was working on a book on purgatory. And the Catholicism and the concept of purgatory. And she went to the Vatican, and she's in the Vatican archives, and she's researching these ancient texts in their original language. She actually has the ability to speak these languages. And she's reading about, saints and other people who are having these religious experiences. And those experiences, their descriptions in modern languages, they've been modified. Like what transpires in these religious experiences is very different when you read it in the original language. Anyway, she's reading this, and she was sharing some of these things that she's read with a colleague of hers. And the colleague at one point said, wow, this is like Close Encounters of the Third Kind. This is like a Steven Spielberg movie.
Right.
And all of a sudden it hit her, and she's like, oh my God. And she's reading this, and it's exactly the same experiences that people talk about in abductions today. Wow. These were going on, over 1,000 years ago. And so that made her very interested in this. And she looked at UFOlogy as kind of a new religion. And she came into doing this research for the book American Cosmic. Long story short, she ended up becoming a believer that UFOs, UAP, is a real phenomena and represents a non-human intelligence. And she's extremely well spoken on the topic. Just a fascinating person to listen to.
Wow, that's awesome. Sorry, just bear with me a second. Plug in my phone real quick. So in more recent years, it's like last year this kind of happened. We had that big surge of drones allegedly above New Jersey and a little bit down towards DC, New York. I have a friend who's a retired Navy SEAL, and he told me that he's like, hey, I got one of my fellow SEALs. He was like the drone guy, and he said that he believes these are actually alien crafts because they don't look like anything like the drones that he's seen, which is pretty like far out. What are your thoughts on the drone? Was it just kids, Patrick, or was it like somebody from Jupiter?
So I have a little bit of an inside story on this, and it's actually become public since I learned about this. So
nice.
Mysterious drone activity has been going on for years over sensitive sites in the United States and abroad. One of the biggest cases that came out was December of 2023. It occurred over a 2-week period. The press barely talked about it. There was a military blog site called The War Zone that did an extensive expose article on it. Excellent. It was a really excellent article, in depth. Anyway, over the course of 2 weeks, over Langley Air Force Base, arguably our most sensitive Air Force base in the nation. It's our first line of defense for protecting Washington, D.C. There's an F-15 Strike Eagle air wing that's based there.
Yeah.
Anyway, these craft began only at night, hovering, moving around the base. I don't remember the exact number, but something like, 10 to 20 of these drones, quote unquote, would be over the base. And they would be at different levels of altitude, from fairly low altitude up into like 10 to 20,000 feet in the air. And the ones at higher altitude were the size of a military jet. They were like 20 feet in diameter. So these are massive drones. And when you get drones of that size, you're talking millions of dollars to build a drone that size. You're talking the cheap hobby stuff.
Yeah.
So it was so alarming. Apparently, none of our counter drone technology worked on these objects.
Oh, wow. They
were unable to image them. They sent scrambled jets to try to get close to these objects. The infrared targeting pods were unable to lock onto these objects.
Wow.
Radar also had trouble with them. So we basically were, seemingly defenseless against them.
Right.
And went to the trouble of taking the entire F-15 squadron and relocating them to another base for safety.
Jesus.
And they brought in a NASA sensor aircraft. It's basically a plane with just tons of sensors on it at a high altitude above the base to try to capture data and recordings of these objects. Now, maybe we don't know. It's probably classified what they caught. Anyway, this is a major, major incursion. And if this is China, this is an act of war.
Right, for sure.
This is very, very serious. And
but to have that kind of technology, to be able to block radar and block the jets firing,
and stay I want to say that for hours and hours and hours at a time. For
I'd be willing to bet that China doesn't have this kind of technology. If they did, we'd probably, I don't know, be flying under the Chinese flag. I don't know. It seems like it's pretty next level.
Yeah, I agree. So that was way back in 2023.
Oh, wow.
And there was also similar incursions over U.S. and U.K. Air Force bases in the United Kingdom. This occurred over a military base in Germany. And then we had the recent drone incursions over New Jersey, which this happened over Picatinny Arsenal.
Yeah.
And there was another base that also had these incursions. Again, our anti-drone technology seemed useless against this stuff. Really mysterious and
so weird. And dude, it was in the news. It was hot. It was everywhere. People we were talking about it in public, and then it disappeared out of the news like a ghost. It was just like it was there 1 minute, it was gone the next.
The complicating factor is, yes, most of the videos you saw on the news of people saying there's a drone over my house, most of that was just helicopters and aircraft. It was normal stuff. So you get a lot of this, and that makes it easy for the debunkers to say, this is just a bunch of people misidentifying airplanes.
Right, of course.
And kind of dismissing the whole thing. But the commander of, I think, Langley Air Force Base has come out and talked about this openly now. And 60 Minutes actually did a very good, this is maybe 1 to 2 months ago, 60 Minutes did an expose on the drones. And basically, we don't know what they are still. We've also had Navy warships, a fleet of U.S. Navy warships in 2019 off the coast of California get swarmed for days by dozens of unknown aircraft. There's video, there's radar footage of this.
Jesus.
There's been interview by people on the ships. That's one of the most frustrating things to me, is that, to me, this is huge news. And the mainstream press rarely covers it. And
not at all. You would never see this on the news.
No.
Honestly, I think about, when I think about the news or the government telling the American people what's going on, I think about when, what's his name, read the War of the Worlds on the radio, and people freaked out thinking that it was real.
Orson Welles,
right? And I'm willing to bet that a majority of America could not handle some of the information that could be passed. I lean on the side that, hey, they're doing it to protect us because we would lose our shit if we knew this was real. I mean, a lot of people would be like, this would increase anxiety by like, whoa. People would be paranoid. I don't know.
I don't know. I really don't know. That's always the fear. That's always expressed as one of the reasons why this stuff is kept secret. I don't know. It's funny. I share a lot of these stories and some of these revelations and stuff that's coming right from the government. And I've got some other things to share in a sec that'll blow your socks off. And I share this with people, and it's like, oh wow, that's cool. And then they're like, oh, did you see the game last night? And it's like, we're talking about the biggest story in the world. This could be the biggest story in human history. If we learn for sure that we are not alone, that there is a non-human intelligence with superior capabilities. I mean, it's hard to imagine. There is no bigger story than that, other than what happens to us after death, maybe. Maybe, right? Those are the two big questions in life. But anyway, I just wanted to say that. So my role in this organization is I'm head of the outreach subcommittee. I'm responsible for our participation in the AIAA forum. So we have people that submit scientific papers, and I manage the process to peer review those papers, judge them. We invite people to come in and present those papers.
Wow.
I'm kind of the internal communications person, marketing, that sort of thing.
So you have access and privy to a lot of good research studies.
So I'm part of the leadership team. So I get to have a chair in the room when we have these cool discussions.
Oh wow!
And and that's really neat. But it's the big takeaway for me in that role is, and people don't know this, it's the degree to which science is embracing the topic. You see the Neil deGrasse Tysons of the world, they still poo-poo it. They still treat it like it's a joke. But the reality is more and more scientists are taking this seriously. They hear the pilot reports, these credible reports. They see the data. Increasingly, there's data behind these anecdotal reports. And, we have, there's organizations springing up. There's the Soul Foundation that's led by Dr. Gary Nolan, who is a Stanford biologist in the pathology department. He is a Nobel Prize nominee. He's an experiencer of UAP. Nice. And he's become one of the big spokespeople in trying to encourage science. But the Soul Foundation exists as kind of a thought leadership forum. They're going to start funding scientific efforts. There's another example is Wurzburg University, one of the oldest engineering schools in the world. They actually have a course of study in their engineering school specifically on UFOs, UAP.
That's incredible.
Yeah. There's the Harvard University's Galileo project led by former astronomy chair Avi Loeb, where they're actually they're building these sensor platforms and they're deploying them around the country. They've just started specifically with the aim of collecting data on UAP.
Wow.
These are just a few examples, but the other thread on this is the people that are coming forward, the number of whistleblowers and senior government officials that are coming forward on this, saying that, yes, UFOs are real. They represent non-human intelligence. We are not alone. Is really incredible. And the world's going to eventually wake up to this, I hope. But, just to name some of them. So we had David Grush, who is a very senior intelligence analyst, combat veteran, who formerly went to the Inspector General of the intelligence community, the DOD, and actually made a complaint that there's illegal accounting of programs in the DOD related to UAP. There are these unacknowledged special access programs where we have been reverse engineering non-human intelligence recovered craft, that we have recovered bodies. Really incredible claims. And when these whistleblowers have been testifying behind closed doors to the House Select Committee on Intelligence.
Wow. Oh, Patrick?
The Senate Armed Services Committee is in the Congress. Marco Rubio has talked about this. He's on the had been on the Senate Armed Services Committee before. He's now Secretary of State, but he said there's a couple dozen very serious, very high-ranking intelligence and government DOD officials that say this is all real. This goes back to even before Roswell. These are people that have everything to lose, nothing to gain. They get caught for lying. They could face jail time, huge penalties.
Lose their careers in whatever government agency they work for, I imagine. And
the nightmare. I mean, it's a nightmare for them when they come out, because all the slings and arrows from all the skeptics, and they get attacked, they get threatened. Some of them have actually expressed that they fear for their lives. So one of the recent a new whistleblower came out today. I'll tell you who that is. But one of the other big ones that came out recently was a man by the name of Jake Barber, and he leads an organization called Skywatcher. Jake Barber was special forces. He's a helicopter pilot, and he testified to Congress in the last few years, and he only recently publicly came out to tell his story. But he claims to be one of the pilots that recovered landed or crashed alien craft, that he actually carried the craft to the base.
Jesus.
And the interesting thing is that apparently, so there's a special forces team that's the physical recovery of the craft. They secure the landing site, the helicopter picks it up, etc. But these things aren't crashing; they're landing based on a what's called a psionics team. So these are DoD people that have psychic abilities. They use meditation techniques to actually call in these craft to land. It takes a lot of effort and work, but they use their minds. They connect on some conscious level with the craft, their unmanned craft, and get these things to land. Sounds insane and crazy.
No, well, I'm a ghost guy, so it doesn't really.
Google Jake Barber, the audience, or Skywatcher, and they have interviews and videos. But anyway, his position is the world needs to know this is the truth. We can't hide the fact that we're not alone in the universe.
Right.
The world has the right to know. So he's decided to do this for real. So he's got other members of the special forces team that were part of the recovery of these craft on his team. They have psionics people. They're funded by venture capitalists. He's like, we don't need any money. We have all the money we need. And they're going out in very remote areas that they're keeping secret. They have a hardware platform that collects data. Their psionics people are calling these objects in. They've released video of these objects, very compelling video. There's 9 different types of UAP, including your traditional disc, cigar shape. There's one that's like a squid. It's like a biological squid. It moves biologically. Sounds crazy. But they have videos of these things that you can watch.
Flying through the sky like a squid through the sky?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, but they have hard sensor data. And part of their team are like hardcore science guys. They're not into the psionics piece, and they have all this data that goes back several years, and they want validation of their data. So they've come to us at the AIAA, the UAP IOC, our committee, and they want our guys to help. And so long story short, some of our guys are going to do this. We're not going to make this an AIAA project, but some of our scientists in our committee are going to evaluate their data with them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty mind blowing.
I find it really cool. I find it awesome that science is jumping on board with this, and like some of your committee is all people that are science people, and they're usually turned off by this kind of thing. They're not at all, and they're completely engaging in the research, which is wonderful. Which people think that like ghost stuff is like just for people like myself that run around with recorders, but there's actually a scientific backing to a lot of it that just doesn't get like reported on a lot or talked about in the media that much. It's just, you got to like dig a little bit, but there's real people who do this stuff too. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go on.
Well, I was just gonna say I just saw the headline. I haven't had a chance to read it or read about it yet. I saw this on X, but so there was a congressional hearing in the House on UAP not too long ago. And in that hearing, there was an independent journalist who had published a story. He had a firsthand witness to a unacknowledged special access program, an alleged unacknowledged special access program called Immaculate Constellation. Immaculate Constellation. It's a program that basically acts as a filter or a siphon. So whenever there's UAP reports, UAP recordings, data of any kind that occurs in the field within the military, as that starts to filter up, this immaculate constellation is a way to grab all of that content and isolate it from the rest of the government.
Wow.
And so it's like a library or a repository of videos, photographs, reports.
Really?
Like
is it available? Is it available to?
Oh no. It's as secret as you can get. And the government, of course, saying this is not real. This does not exist. There's no such thing as immaculate constellation.
Right. No.
But the guy that was involved in the program came forward about this, but only through a journalist. And apparently today he came forward publicly. And I think one of the reasons why he was willing to come forward is there's new whistleblower protections that were put in place specifically to deal with UAP whistleblowers that are starting to come forward. But the other big thing, there's a new documentary that was launched at a film festival. The director's looking for he's negotiating probably with one of the big distributors, but it's called The Age of Disclosure. And I recommend you watch that trailer. It's goosebump inducing, but it features, I think it's 33 government officials coming forward about UFOs.
I think you sent me the trailer for that, and I watched it. It did actually give me goosebumps seeing how many high-ranking officials just came forward and be like, "Yeah, this is a legit guy." That's
including the big reveal was that James Clapper, is in the trailer, and so he's Air Force General. He was Director of National Intelligence under Obama, so top government official, and he's basically coming forward saying this is real.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what, the only way we can get better than that is to have an actual craft, I suppose. But
for sure,
maybe we'll get there eventually.
Maybe a body show up on YouTube or something. Even that, I feel like that has happened already. I feel like we saw bodies in oh God, what was that awful? The Inquirer, like years ago. But that was probably bullshit. But
no video or will ever prove anything, right? I don't even. There's so many videos every day, and we get them in our mailbox, right? People will reach out to us and send us their cell phone videos, and they're they're worthless because everything can be so easily faked or manipulated. So
one of our viewers, she was I guess a few weeks ago, Laura Pruitt, she captured a alien live on Facebook a few weeks back. She sees them regularly at her. I think she's like in the Midwest, and she has a lot of experiences out there. She shared a lot of photos, a lot of interesting video, a lot of interesting stuff. But like there's people all over the country. This seems to be a phenomenon huge in the United States and Great Britain. Does this happen throughout the rest of the world? Does China have drones? Does Russia have drones?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. It 100% is a worldwide phenomenon. You don't necessarily hear about it. I think it's maybe a cultural thing in some cases.
Right. You don't hear about it so much here, but yeah.
Yeah. China, for example, has their version of the government UFO office that we call ARROW, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. China has its own version of it. They have UAP clubs, just like, exist here.
Wow.
Yeah, Brazil has some big famous cases. Some countries are very much more open about it. Italy and Peru, for example, are very open. The government talks about it freely. They've done research efforts. France, the name of the organization is GEIPAN, GEIPAN, and it's like part of their NASA, and they openly study UFOs, and they publish reports saying, they're not trying to debunk it or say that it's nothing. It's very interesting.
Well, it's good that it's a worldwide effort. That like it's not just us. We're not just screaming it's China or it's Russia. But do they believe that in China and Russia, they believe these drones are us, or do they believe that it's aliens?
Yeah, I think the government will say, they assume it's us, or they think so. Yeah,
keep it under wraps.
It's a knee-jerk reaction.
I know you've had your experiences with spiritual activity for sure in that building. But how about UFOs? Have you ever seen anything that you thought might be a UFO, Patrick, or ET coming to the
I had
Amaranth?
one experience last summer. It's not a big deal, but it's
Mhm.
interesting. So I was laying on the beach in the Outer Banks in North Carolina with my wife.
Beautiful, nice.
And that area of the sky is called, I had mentioned it earlier, Whiskey 72, W72. So the military divides up the sky into blocks of sky.
Mm-hmm.
And Whiskey 72 is where the two famous government UFO videos were filmed, the gimbal video and the go fast UFO video. These are two UAP videos that were actually verified by the government as being legit.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so I'm laying on the beach, and of course I'm thinking about that. And I'm looking, we're both laying on our backs, and I'm looking up at this blue, beautiful blue sky.
Mhm.
And out of the corner of my vision, I see a white, like rectangle or diamond shaped thing about the size of my thumbnail at arm's length, kind of
Mhm.
look. And I look and I see it, and then it just vanishes in front of me. But I locked onto it for a good second to 2 seconds max. And I'm like, and I didn't say anything. And I'm like, did I just see that? Or was that like some flash of my eyes or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden my wife goes, "Hey, did you see that?" I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "What did you see?" I didn't say anything. What'd you see? And she described this white square in the sky.
Mm.
Disappeared. I don't know. It was really weird.
Mm.
The other neat thing that I got to do, I know we're running low on time. Actually, there's a couple of brothers. They're called the Tedesco brothers out of Long Island. These are retired engineers. They worked for the FLIR camera company, the infrared camera company, and they got into trying to collect data and detect UFOs off the coast of Long Island on the southern coast. And they've been collecting interesting data, and they've been sharing it. They published it in a scientific paper, and they've been getting a lot of attention in social media. So we went out to kind of evaluate their efforts at their invitation. So I went out for a night with some of our guys to actually try to capture UAP
Nice
on radar and things like this. And
nice.
We didn't see what they normally said. They said it's like a 50-50 chance.
Mm-hmm.
But the very bizarre thing that happened to us is that we had multiple Geiger counters, different make and model, on the beach with us.
Mm-hmm.
And about, I don't know, 11:30 at night, I'm sitting there next to one of our guys, and all of a sudden, all of the Geiger counters light up, and they're just like screaming for like a period of time. And then later, the guy came back with the graph of the signal, and it was gamma radiation for, I forget the period of time, but it was the equivalent of radiation that you would get in an entire year of like sunlight, or like an unprotected X-ray.
Jesus.
It scared the hell out of all of us. We're like,
Right. That's a lot of radiation all at once. Like
yeah,
that.
very scary. And
Yeah.
no one could come up with a natural explanation. You know, sometimes stars might say
Yeah. They'll float on by and stuff. Yeah.
But it was a lot. And of course, you'll learn when, particularly if you watch Dr. Gary Nolan, who I mentioned, that Stanford biologist. He first got into this, not just because of his personal experience, but because the CIA came to him and asked for help he had to develop some sort of blood test that they wanted to apply towards victims of Havana syndrome, if you've heard of Havana syndrome, and people who had come into contact with UAP. And people that get too close to UAP will often suffer radiation burns.
Right. I've heard that from people that have been abducted, allegedly. Yeah. Or that Travis Walton, I think, said that they killed him with the radiation, and then they brought him up to the ship to save his life. But it's all very fascinating, Patrick. One question left we have from the viewer. Laura Pruitt asks, when you had that experience with your wife in the Outer Banks, did you have any lost or missing time after seeing her, or seeing it, or afterwards that you couldn't?
No, I did not. That's a often reported experience when people have a close encounter with UAP, is this lost time.
They completely forget. They have no memories, and then steadily some of it trickles back in.
Right.
Very, very trauma related. That happens with people who suffer from many traumas. So that's just the brain kind of protecting us from the shit that we can't handle really seeing in the moment, I think. Anything you want to mention, Patrick? We're wrapping up on time here. Anything you want to mention about the anything that people should check out? Anything that people should look at for more information on this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to learn more about the organization that I'm volunteering with, it's the website is aiaauap.org. I recommend you check out the Soul Foundation online. A good thing to follow on X, the one news outlet that frequently covers UAP in a very professional way is News Nation. You can follow them on X or YouTube. But definitely check out Skywatcher. They've got some new videos out there, like 20 minutes in length. But if you want to see videos of these 9 types of UAP that they're capturing on video, it's a very compelling video. So
nice.
That would be my recommendation. And check out Age of Disclosure.
Age of Disclosure. All right, I'll have to. Yeah, I swear that's the trailer that you sent me a few weeks back. But,
yeah, and for people, anyone in the audience who's brand new to the topic or very skeptical, I would recommend watching. I think it's free on YouTube and Netflix. But James Fox, best documentary producer for UFOs, he did The Phenomenon, which is a great kind of summary of the whole topic that is very compelling.
Awesome. All right. So to wrap up, Patrick, you guys just had an open house at the Armory?
Yeah, we did. The next one is Sunday the 18th. We got a bunch of new dates that we'll have on our website soon. We have a brand new website. We'll be open Memorial Day.
Check out that website. I do the new website. I think I brought it up on a show like the day that you launched it. I'm like, holy shit, this is all there. Oh my god, look at all this. And I my guest bumped out that day, and I just spent 2 hours just talking about the Armory and showing different pictures from the Armory. It's absolutely phenomenal what you guys did with that. Check out the website, www.varnumcontinentals.org. Check out on May 24th, we'll be hosting a mediumship gallery reading with Christina Marie. She's been on the show 4 or 5 times. She's absolutely tremendous. She'll be hosting a gallery reading. Half the proceeds from the event will go to the Varnum Memorial Armory and all of the wonderful things that they do there. Tune in this Thursday as Three Dudes Brews, which is my other vodcast. It's a beer show. We'll be presenting Three Dudes Brews. We'll be having a light beer challenge where we try and guess different light beers from another. And, of course, the ultras, which Ed thinks are completely a waste of time. Of course, there is a use for every kind of beer out there, including light beers. So check that out on Thursday. Next Tuesday, tune in as we bring you the third facet of the paranormal and the third, of the 3 bigs of the paranormal field, the ghosts, the UFOs. We bring you the third, which is Bigfoot. Dan Benoit from the East Coast Bigfoot Research Organization down there in West Virginia joins us. Dan has a Bigfoot fest that he hosts every year. He has a lot of good stuff on Bigfoot. He's an avid Bigfoot hunter. He's written several books. So tune in next week live at 8 p.m. We'll be on live for him. I'm cutting down here on time, so I'm going to cut it here for Patrick Donovan. Thank you again, Pat, for coming on again. This has been awesome. I'd like to hear more, obviously. For Bams, who didn't make it tonight, this has been me, Buddy Thayer. This has been the Ghost and the Goat. Let's go Red Sox. Let's go Celtics. The Celtics are up 49-47. No, they're down 49-47. They've been down the whole game. Take the magic out of Orlando. Let's do this. Let's go back to the championship and win the whole thing twice over. This has been the Ghost and the Goat. I'm out of here. Thank you, guys. Have a good week.